The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Recruiting Insider webinar for December. We have a lot of people still signing in. We have 690 some odd people that are registered for this webinar. I do not take lightly the number of people that are registered for this, and that number continues to grow every month. I do ask if you would pass along the invites to your friends. Who just love to continue to grow this number. It's a lot of fun to go around the country and people come up and start talking about these. By the way, they're all available on my website. Hey, Blake, if you want to mute your phone, they're available on my website, so you can go back and watch them anytime. And as everybody knows, after that have been on these before, after each one of the conferences or the webinars, once we get them all loaded up, Laura will send out the follow-up link to the recorded webinar. And after this one, there's going to be quite a few calculators that we send you as well. So the calculators that I go through, I've got screenshots of. We will be passing those along to everybody. And I just started talking and didn't even say, hey, this is Kelly Anderson, and that's who you're listening to. On the call today, we have Blake Ballman from Claris Solutions, and I've known Blake for years. And Blake's going to talk to us about a work opportunity tax credit. He'll keep it short and concise, but a lot of folks don't know this is available out there, and it's getting paid for what you're already doing. So we're going to bring Blake in here in just a moment, and as usual, we have, and don't take lightly at all, the fact that we have Matt Lee from Ramsey Media Works, and you are going to love the picture that he's got in this slide, and I'll just leave it at that. There's a cliffhanger for you. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and get started, and with that, Blake, I'm going to turn this over to you. Blake's going to talk to us about the work opportunity tax credits and what that means to us.
Hey, Kelly, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to join you today and talk to your audience on the webinar. I have a personal mission, and that is to educate every motor carrier in the U.S. on the work opportunity tax credit. It's basically free money that the government has already given to companies to help them improve people's lives. And so you don't get much better than that. But the sad part is 3 out of every 4 motor carriers I've spoken to have never, ever heard of the work opportunity tax credit before, and it's been around for 20 years. And so my goal today is just to give your audience about a 30,000-foot view of what it is and what it can mean to their motor carrier. And we're talking about thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that the government would give them in tax credits. And then if it's okay with you, Kelly, I'd like to offer them something special for being on the webinar today. Is that cool with you?
It is, and Blake, I didn't mention a moment ago, after the webinar, we also have a survey, and one of the survey questions there is, would you like Blake to contact you to give you more information on the work opportunity tax credit? But I would appreciate everybody taking time to look at the survey and filling it out after the webinar as well. Thanks.
All right, fantastic. Well, just to get on with the work opportunity tax credit, it was actually started in 1996, and the whole intent of it was to help people from certain target groups that have had significant barriers to finding employment get a job and reward that company for hiring them. And so there's 9 target groups that the work opportunity tax credit applies to, and I'm going to talk to you about 5 of them real quick. And these are the 5 that we see are most common in trucking. And the first is the veterans category. There's actually 3 subcomponents of it. There's unemployed veterans, there's veterans with disability, and then there's veterans on food stamps. And veterans with the disability, that doesn't mean that they're actually confined to a wheelchair or missing a limb. I have a brother-in-law who is retired Navy. He used to work on ejection seats. One day an ejection parachute popped out, it thrust the seat into him, and it injured his shoulder. And so when he retired, he gets 20% disability because of that injury, but he can do anything that we can do. So if your company was to hire him today, they could take advantage of that work opportunity tax credit, but just letting you know he is off limits. He is fully retired. With that, the next two categories are the TAMP and the SNAP, and this is temporary assistance for needy families and food stamps. And this is typically where motor carriers will hold up their hand and they'll say, Blake, very politely, we don't hire those types of individuals. And I will tell you, you're dead wrong if you believe that. If you'll look down at the bottom, you'll see there's 21.3% of the U.S. population is on some form of government welfare. That's 52 million Americans. And with these two categories, it doesn't necessarily have to be that individual that you're hiring to become eligible for it. It could be somebody living in their household. And so one of the common things we see is that a driver has a girlfriend with children that are living in the same household with them, and the girlfriend and the children are on food stamps, and because of that, your carrier can actually take advantage of that work opportunity tax credit. The fourth category that I see that's most common is the designated community residents, and these are individuals that are living in what the government calls our empowerment zones or rural renewal counties around the country. And typically these zones are areas that are depressed, low income, not a lot of job opportunities. I'm actually out of the state of Texas, and we have two huge empowerment zones in El Paso and San Antonio. And so if you hire individuals from those zones, you get to take advantage of that tax credit. And then the last one that we typically see in trucking is the long-term unemployed. And with this, these are individuals that have been unemployed for the last 27 weeks and have collected some form of unemployment benefits. And with this, where we see these coming into the trucking industry is really in the form of warehouse personnel, mechanics, and then companies that do have their own trucking schools. So we see a flux of them with those types of carriers. And so with this, when you hire individuals from these categories, you can get tax credits ranging from $2,400 all the way up to $9,600. And so there's a couple of rules I'll just point out real quick on that, is that the individuals have to work at least 120 hours. So if you're tracking things by miles, that's 7,200 miles for them to qualify. They do have to be a W-2 employee. Independent contractors don't qualify for this program, and they have to be a new hire to your company. And so, Kelly, if we'll go to the next slide. And so when we think about the work opportunity tax credit in trucking, it's actually a very good fit. And the reason for that is that ugly word of driver turnover. There's a lot of turnover in the industry, and that means you're always hiring new employees. And then there's a focus on the veterans and getting them jobs. And in working with our clients, we find that 1 in every 5 new hires you make, whether it's drivers, warehouse, mechanics, dispatch, office personnel, are typically eligible for the work opportunity tax credit. And we help our clients manage that process, and they average about $2,150 per tax credit. So if you can think about all the drivers that you're hiring right now, and let's just say you're a carrier that hires 100 new drivers a year, 20% of that times $2,150, you're looking at about $43,000 in tax credits that you possibly could be leaving on the table. On that first slide, you saw that $5 billion went unclaimed on the last IRS report, and we have found that those are with companies that are $500 million or less in the industry. And so a lot of our clients are using that extra additional money that they're bringing in from these tax credits to offset the recruiting costs, to help fund retention programs, to help with safety training, or even to offset, your applicant tracking systems like TruckRight. So with that being said, Kelly, if you'll go to the next slide. I wanted to offer everybody something very special. This is something that we do for only our clients, and so I want to offer to anybody who's listening in on this webinar is we will actually do a WOTC assessment report or a work opportunity tax credit assessment report. We'll send out a survey after the end of the phone call that has 10 questions on it. If you will fill those out, it'll come right back to us. We'll take the time and put this report together, and it'll show you exactly how much you should be getting in work opportunity tax credits. So if you're one of the very few carriers that are already taking advantage of this, then you can measure and see if you're getting the maximum credits. And if you're a carrier who's not, this is definitely something that you'll want to do to see how much money you could be getting. And so, Kelly, that's all I had, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this.
Wow, Blake, thank you so much. You kept that very concise, and at a high level for us. Folks, if anybody has any questions for Blake, he's going to stay on the call with us, and just type those in. I'll see them, and here toward the end of the webinar, if we have time, we'll go ahead and answer those. So please send those in as they come up. With that being said, Matt, let's keep this ball rolling. Take over, sir.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Today, I know you're going to talk about year-end reporting, and so I thought that it would be a good topic to talk about ways to track your advertising sources today, and some of the tools that are available to be able to do that. So we're going to talk about ways to track job page traffic. We're going to talk about ways to track phone calls, and we're going to talk about the most important thing, and that is to track your applicants and hires. So first, let's do the job page traffic, which is the next slide, Kelly. There's a couple of ways to do this. One is to use a web analytics tool. You can search for web analytics tools. There's a lot of free ones out there. The one that's probably the most popular, and is the most popular actually, is Google Analytics. And that shows you a lot of details about who's coming into your landing page. It shows whether they're a unique visitor or first-time visitor or repeat visitor. It's also going to show you things like geography, where they're located. There's a lot of really good details that you can get from those web analytics tools, and again, they are free. Most of them are, and Google Analytics being the biggest and the most used is definitely free. Lots of great tutorials out there to be able to show you how to use those and how to read them. The other thing is the URL tags, and again, there's a lot of tools out there that allow you to build these URL tags that you can place on an ad so that you know what source is driving the traffic to your landing page. Let's just say that you're out there and you click on Indeed or Jobs to Careers or Jobs and Trucks or multiple, whatever advertising source you're using. You can actually put these tags on there and be able to follow that through your landing page and on into your ATS, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Phone calls would be the next slide, and actually there's a lot of different software out there to be able to track your phone calls. You can assign different toll-free numbers to all of your ads so that you know what ads are actually generating the phone calls. There's a lot of great information that you can receive from these tracking softwares, like you know, where they're calling from, again, what ad that they called. A lot of times you're going to know a little bit about their history. Whatever is public information out there, you're going to be able to get. It also allows you to monitor the call quality. So if you have recruiters that you know, maybe new or maybe out of your office in remote locations, you have the ability to be able to listen to those phone calls and make suggestions and give them tips and advice of how to improve that particular recruiting call. So great way to be able to track and to make adjustments. The final thing there, and probably the most important, is ATS reporting tools. If you're able to implement the URL tags that we talked about, the phone tracking, and all of those things, then you're going to be able to see that ad, see where it originated, see where that applicant originated, then track them through your landing page and all the way into your ATS. Products like TruckRight. I know Kelly has a great relationship with those guys. It's a great product. And using those particular tools, you can actually track those ads all the way through so that at the end of the month, you can say, we hired this particular candidate from this advertising source, so that then you can make an educated decision as to whether or not you want to renew that source the next month or if it's not a good fit for you. So those are a lot of tools, and I know I only have a few minutes here. I would highly recommend that you go out there and visit recruitingsessions.com. There I am, nerding it out. I actually get way down into the weeds on sessions 9 and 10 both, and it's a real good education Again, we get way down in there and talk about how to implement some of these URL tags, and all kinds of other great advice out there on recruitingsessions.com. Feel free to join me there. With that, Kelly, I'll turn it back over.
Folks, can you hear me better at this point? Somebody tell me on the question answer. Yes, okay. There we go. I'm getting yeses now. Good deal. So get that turned off. I guess I was having a headset issue there, or Bluetooth or something. Gotcha, everybody. Thank you very much for the quick heads up from the audience there. You can tell something's going on when the questions explode. So anyway, Matt, thank you so much for that. And folks, I was just saying, hope you give Ramsey an opportunity to help you with your advertising if you have that need. Because Matt works hard just to do the education, and he's not selling here. But I think I'd be remiss not to say, hey, listen, they know what they're doing. Hey, so let's get into this, and I want to talk about measurables. And there's a couple of the questions that I get asked a lot as I go around and consult and do recruiting and retention consulting and training. And one of the very first ones is, hey, how do you calculate turnover? And so here's a quick and easy yearly calculation. The basically here we are at the end of the year. You could take the total terminations from last year, or this year, excuse me, and divide it by your current number of drivers, and boom, there's your turnover rate. But as you go along through the year, and I'll be sending you guys a turnover calculator spreadsheet that'll do this for you. Basically, I used to calculate it per day. Some fleets do it per month, and so you can change this based on how many you are, what your interval is. So you divide the total number of driver terminations for the year so far by the day of the year. So if we're on the 180th day of the year and we've lost X amount, well, we divide X amount by 180. That tells us how many drivers per day we've averaged losing. Now we multiply that by 365 so that we're annualizing that number. If we continued to average that many drivers lost per day for the rest of this year, this is how many drivers we would lose. Then we divide that number by the total number of current drivers, and that gives you your turnover rate. That's the true calculation of turnover rate. A common mistake I see is people will do some sort of dividing the number of drivers they hired or lost by the number of drivers they hired that week. And I don't know what that number tells you. I can look, I'd rather add and subtract and say, hey, we had this many drivers, we hired this many drivers, we either gained drivers this week or lost drivers this week in our total number. So there's your turnover rate calculator. The next question I get a lot is, well, what do you put in? How do you calculate your cost of turnover? And folks, this is a calculator where I've broken things down in, a section on recruiting cost, a section on training cost, lost opportunity. Here's your cost for advertising, and of course you can change these sources here. I just put a few in there. And over the years, those sources have changed because, not many people use TV anymore. XM radio, some folks use that. Direct mail, I still get things mailed to me by some of the fleets through the years. So anyway, you can change the sources and that'll show that. So now your drivers hired, drivers lost. your new employee startup cost of removing the old driver, and then down here in the lower right-hand corner, it does the math to figure out what your turnover cost per hire is, your hiring cost per driver, and your advertising cost per driver. You know, Greg Finzen used to be the recruiting director at Hirschbach Transportation, and he wrote a testimonial following my director of recruiting training course. And he said, Kelly, those calculators you gave me and the understanding that you gave me on what it costs for us to do business has helped me so much. He said, every time I go into a management meeting and they want to talk about, you know, hey, what's your budget going to be, and thinking even about maybe reducing that budget, he says, I have my numbers, and he says, I'm able to justify what I need every time, and I get what I need to do my job. And so Greg Finzen, I'll tell you today, is working for a Catholic organization as an event coordinator or something like that, and just a great guy, and I know he's happy doing the charity work that he's doing now. But that's a story he gave. And folks, you guys are all going to get these calculators. This is a recent one I've created, and you know, the question is, when we hire somebody, when do we break even? And it really came from a conversation I was having with the president, wherein he says, Kelly, I know I'm hiring drivers that aren't going to be here in 90 days, but I've got an empty truck, and I need to get that truck on the road. And I was like, man, but sir, what is it costing you to recruit a driver? Well, he didn't know that number either. So, you know, we went through the cost of turnover, and we just went ahead and used the $3,500 fee. You know, as he felt like, okay, yeah, that'd be about right. And then, well, his operating ratio, 98%, revenue per day, 650. So at 98%, it costs you $637 to make $650. So you earn $13 per day. So basically, the calculator does the math, and it was 8.9 months before he recouped the revenue, the money he spent to add that driver. And folks, I find that most times when we use this calculator, it comes out to 6 to 9 months before you break even. It is, and the bad part is 75% of our turnover happens in the first 90 days of employment. So I'd love to have some input from folks on this calculator. You know, I know that in the OR, the cost, you know, that $3,500 is figured in the OR. But how long does it take to get that $3,500 back? 8.9 months in this situation. So it's amazing when you look at what happens when you improve your operating ratio by a point or two. So folks, it's not about how much money we make, it's about how much money we spend. And so get everybody in your company concerned about reducing expenses and driving that OR down. The next is our advertising cost per hire and contract. Now I know if Ramsey's doing your advertising, you're going to get all these types of reports. Matt is truly a nerd, and and just absolutely, we understand if we can't measure it, we can't manage it. But so you can see here, you can put in the cost of your advertising, figure out how many contacts you got. That gets kind of easy when it's coming through the internet and/or you're using a tracking phone call system, so you can put in those numbers. How many applications did you get from each one of those sources, and then how many hires? And then this calculator will show you your cost per hire, ultimately your cost per hire from each one of the sources. Folks, ultimately that's what I care about, is the number of hires. I don't care about leads. The truth is, I just as soon lower the number of leads and increase the number of hires. And you do that by really driving the quality of the phone call. And you're able to do that when you start measuring this, and you can see what's working, what's not, and you just keep tweaking it and tweaking it. And that's where one of the things Matt works on very hard. You know, this is a weekly advertising tracking, and you can see on this one, you got your sources there, your leads, your applications, and then again, your hires or contracts. And this one shows your conversion. So at times, and you ought to do this per recruiter as well, if the recruiter's not having a high conversion rate, then maybe they need some training. Sorry, I looked at my phone real quick to see what time it was because I know I'm getting close. The other day we were out of fleet, and the recruiters were the only people they were working were the people that were calling them. And a matter of fact, just recently I had my recruiters. I have a call center. Some people don't know that. We have a call center where companies that don't have time to answer their own calls, we answer the call, and then we hot transfer the interested and pre-qualified driver to the fleet. We don't charge on a per hire basis. It's just a flat fee. But I had my recruiters call and fill out applications, and they were saying they weren't getting any qualified leads. Well, they got 3 qualified leads, and we had 0 response to those. Why? Because most recruiters, and folks, I see this over and over again, most recruiters are they'll answer calls when they come in. They'll tell them, hey, go to my website, fill out the application, and the driver goes to the website, fills out the application, and then nothing happens unless the driver calls to check on the application. So I don't have time to go more into how to correct that. I've done it on previous webinars, but would love to visit with anybody that wants to talk about that. So with that, I don't see any questions. If you guys want to put, if somebody wants to, anybody has any questions, you can certainly put those in. I do want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Man, I think 2016 has been a tough year for trucking. I am very optimistic about 2017, and a lot of the reports that we're seeing are positive as well, and especially as the year goes on. And so looking forward to that. But we are in still the toughest driver market we've ever seen, and that shortage continues to increase. And so we've really got to work to do the right things right to overcome that. The January call is going to be on January 18th at 10 a.m. So you got folks will get an announcement on that. Please do take time to do the survey because in that I hear of topics. I see the topics that you folks would like to have covered, and then so we do that. With that being said, folks, I think we're probably right out of time, and thank you so much for the kind words that I'm receiving from folks now wishing me a Happy New Year and such, and thank you very much for that. And just a little quick shout out, Brian Lagana from the American Trucking Association Safety Management Council is on the call today, and folks, the ATA, Safety Management Council, you guys know I'm a big supporter of that. It's a great organization. If you're not a member of it, check it out. You want to stay on top of what's going on in the industry. That is a great source, and your peers, the best of the best, are part of that association. And thank you very much for all the kind words, everybody. And we'll see you in January.